So welcome to another video. I've not done one of these for a while. Happy Tuesday, by the way, if you're watching this on a Tuesday. And according to my statistics, 1 in 7 of you probably are. So just another example really of how to make something funny. I could list joke formulas and stuff. I've mentioned this before, but the best way to really see how somebody tries to make something funny is to actually see the process, so you can see that it's really hard work. And I say that now because this one may genuinely be really hard work. So today we're looking at becoming an actuary. I really have to be careful. I'm not sure that's how you say that. I've been on Yale. Basically, I thought, right, I need some different businesses for this. So I've started at A. We're doing actuary. I'm not entirely sure what an actuary is. I should really Google that before we go. I'm using Bing because I don't want, what am I doing? Not actually. I don't want my potted history showing up when I go on Firefox. An actuary is a business professional who deals with the measurement and management of risk and uncertainty. Excellent. That will give me an overview for now. So normally what I do is I take a bunch of text, put it into a Google Doc, work through it bit by bit, and then add funny to it and tap away. Nobody wants to hear me tapping, so I'm going to try something different for this one. I'm just going to walk you through it, screen share it, select some bits, and tell you what I would look for in terms of kind of comedy potential. Now, this is a long blog post. We're not going to do all this. I don't want to keep them. Ideally, I like to keep it under 10 minutes if I can. So let's start. So, can an engineer become an actuary? Let's find out. If you're an engineer looking to make a career change, then becoming an actuary is definitely a career to consider. That it is. I think there's potential for a tag at the end of this. Definitely a career to consider once you've exhausted the normal routes of traveling away with a circus, becoming a professional footballer, or even, dare I say it, becoming an accountant. You know, make fun out of some stereotypical jobs that people would actually want. Then an actuary career could be for you. Or similarly, actually, you could say, really exaggerate this. So becoming an actuary is definitely a career to consider, especially since you got 3 buzzers, especially since your naked ventriloquism act got 3 buzzers on Britain's Got Talent last week. Time to get a proper job. There's definitely something you could tag onto the end of there. So let's see what this is. But first off, can an engineer even become an actuary? The way I read that was like, can an engineer even become an actuary? Can you even put onion on a cheese sandwich? Aren't there laws against this? It's like this kind of incredulous, hasn't Donald Trump built a wall to stop this kind of thing happening? Kind of thing. But first off, can an engineer even become an actuary? Yes, they can. So with a bachelor's degree and strong willingness to put in the effort needed, an engineer can become an actuary and realise their childhood dreams. Like a story, I like it. It sounds very fairy tale there. Can become an actuary. They can finally realize the hero's journey. So we see here, with a bachelor's degree and strong willingness to put in the effort needed, you could put a rule of 3 in here. So with a bachelor's degree, a strong willingness to put in the effort needed, and a small bribe to the actuarial board, an engineer can become an actuary. Or the third one could just be funny. So with a bachelor's degree, a strong willingness, and a decent-sized calculator, an engineer can become an actuary. That would be a good tag for that. So I don't really know much about actuaries. If they're calculating risk, I can imagine they use a calculator a lot. So they're not using abacuses. If they are, you definitely don't need a bachelor's degree for this. So yeah, that would work there. The path to becoming one isn't simple, though. There are many things to consider before getting started. This is a good intro to the path to becoming one isn't simple. My mind immediately goes to something to contrast it with. So something that isn't simple, or something that is simple. So the word path is quite good. The path to becoming one isn't simple. So you could put at the beginning, like driving through Oxford, or like navigating the streets of Oxford, the path to becoming one isn't simple. Or like navigating the streets of Oxford, the path isn't a simple one. There are many things to consider before getting started. So think of what isn't simple, or something that is really simple, and you could use that as a comparison for that there. So requirements for an engineer to become an actuary in order for you to start working as an actuary, you need a bachelor's degree and you need to have 2 to 3 actuarial exams passed. So you need a bachelor's degree. Now, in the UK, we have loads of degrees. We have them for stereotypically difficult subjects like law, accountancy, math, science, that kind of stuff. But we also have ones that are seen as a bit of a joke, like tourism, media, David Beckham, foot massage, something like that. So I think there's potential for it. You'll need a bachelor's degree, and in brackets, not media studies, M comma. You could do something like that. You can make fun out of a bachelor's degree and then put, in brackets, a relevant one, so no media studies need apply. And you'll need to have 2 to 3 actuarial exams passed. I'm not saying that word, actuarial, right. Although these 2 things aren't technically required to work as an actuary, they're highly recommended, and you'd be unlikely to get hired without them. So what they're essentially saying is, you could put a tag on there. Although these 2 things aren't technically required to work as an actuary, they're highly recommended, and you'd be unlikely to get hired without them. So I guess what I'm saying is you do need them, or something. You will need to have them. Having relevant experience will help significantly in your job search too. So if an actuary, having relevant experience, relevant experience to an actuary is going to be really obvious. Somebody who manages risk and somebody who's good with figures, let's say, for example. Those are the 2 things that an actuary does, let's say. So it would be very easy to come up with jobs like accountants or even an engineer and the skills that transfer over. So my tendency there would be to think of something that wouldn't stereotypically have a transferable skill. So let's say like let's say you sell shoes to kids, right? You work at Clark's or something like that, and you're used to measuring kids' shoes. So what I would do is think, how can one element of that job or a couple of elements of that job relate to being an actuary? Oh, God, I wish I'd not picked that. How can selling shoes to kids for schools relate to being an actuary? So you could say, if it's about risk, what are the risks involved in selling shoes to kids? There are risks involved if you get some kind of verruca wart on your hand because they haven't worn a sock. Again, there's a risk that they might fidget and kick you in the face. So the risk of a toenail embedded in the eyeball is 1.7%, which is up on last year's 1.2% when I was wearing an eye patch or goggles or something like that. So there's definitely elements you could take and transfer it into being an actuary. You could produce a graph here as well. So between this and this, you could put a graph showing a year-on-year growth. You should do a risk report. You could take a PDF of a risk report online and fill it in for selling shoes, that kind of thing. That'd be quite funny to put in there. Fortunately, the specialisation of your degree isn't very important. Oh, right, so the bit up there that we mentioned about having media studies is quite irrelevant. Fortunately, the specialisation of your degree isn't very important. You could become an actuary with a bachelor's degree in engineering, computer science, maths, finance, or any major, even art. So yeah, they've used the kind of even art as the contrast there, when in comedy you'd use something like the David Beckham studies or something really non-actuarial. So they've gone for art, which isn't really especially funny, but it is the comparison. So I would be tempted to kind of put an image of a famous artist like Bob Ross underneath with the caption, "I'm using 14% more yellow ochre than it was this time last year." Or not that Bob Ross talked like that. Or even an image of Bob Ross going, "Hey, stop dissing art." So let's do this bit. Some degrees, like one in math or statistics, for example, will best prepare you for the type of math you'll see on actuarial exams. This post goes into details about the best majors for an aspiring actuary. Right, so what they've done is pointed out the degree that would prepare you best for the type of math you'll see on actuarial exams. There's another aspect to the actuarial job, and that might be that you're sat on your backside for a long period at a computer doing complicated maths. So some degrees, like one in maths or statistics, for example, will best prepare you for the type of math you'll see on actuarial exams. Other degrees, like philosophy, for instance, will best prepare you for being sat on your backside for long periods doing nothing. You may not want to pick philosophy. But there's a chance that you can pick something different than the actual math part of the job, and you can stress how a silly degree would best pay for that exam. So this post goes into detail about all the best majors. So I think that'll be enough for now. We've done quite a few bits here. We've done Britain's Got Talent bit there. Can I even become an actuary? Yes. And then do a comparison with other questions that people will ask. The rule of three about a bachelor's degree, strong willingness, and a hefty bribe to the actuarial aboard. The path to becoming one isn't simple, though, that driving through Oxford. You'll need a bachelor's degree, and you'll need to have 2 to 3 actuarial exams passed. Although they aren't required to work, essentially they are. And then we talked about how to relate the relevant experience from a non-relevant job in there. Specialisation of your degree isn't important, even art. Then have an image of Bob Ross. Sub-degrees like one in maths will prepare you for the best type of math you'll see on actuarial exams, and then compare it to the philosophy one, which will prepare you for long periods of sitting on your butt. So we've got 7 or 8 gags in there just within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Just an example of what you can do. You wouldn't use them all. I always say this, you wouldn't use them all, but it's better to have too many gags and then filter them down and whittle them down to the best ones. You'll find some that suit your tone of voice, some that don't. You may want to take the mickey out of art. You may want to use a picture of Bob Ross. That might not be your thing. Like most writing, it's important that you figure out what's important for you and what suits your voice. So I won't do the rest of this because I want to keep these videos fairly short, and I think we're about 10 minutes now. That should be enough. I'm just grateful to get through the whole thing and only mispronounce actuary 99% of the time. I'm going to go on Wikipedia and search how they say that. If you have any more suggestions for blogs you'd like to feature, websites you'd like to feature, pages, anything like that, let me know. I'll do a new video soon, and thank you very much for watching. Any feedback or comments, put them below, and I'll try to look at them. Actually, could work out the risk of me doing that. We'll see how it goes. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.